Okay, so we're group 5, and our text is excerpted from the 10th chapter. And so in the excerpt analysis, we spoke about how the nature and how nature actually throughout the discussion, we discussed how nature plays a very influential role throughout the novel. And there are like several parts that depict nature, and the idea of nature being comforting is repeatedly enforced by Mary Shelley. And there were a few questions that we came up with and discussed. So like in the excerpt, he said the greatest consolation he was capable of receiving. We discussed the use of the word capable, because we felt that it's demeaning in a way that he didn't see himself worth the beauty of nature. And also in the part where he's starting from wandering spirits at the bottom to the end, it's also a suggestion of his guilt and how he tries to run away from the responsibility that he only recently discovered that he had towards the monster. And maybe he is blame on himself for the death of William and Justine. And then for the main issues, it's we also discussed mainly about how the sublime nature has the ability to restore and heal, and it acted as a foreshadow for the confrontation with the monster between Victor and the monster. And also Daphne asked us about, she was the TA, and David. Sorry. Daphne asked us about how the Mont Blanc and Montevert, it was a symbol, and we answered that because Mont Blanc was described as majestic, and in comparison to Montevert, it was greater in a way. And so it could be that Montevert was a symbol of Victor, and Mont Blanc being the monster. So in that, he is much more powerful than him. And I only thought of it now that because the names are in French, and Mont Blanc is the white mountain, and Montenvert is the green mountain. So in a way, it's also suggesting that if Victor was Montenvert, then green it suggests life, and white normally suggests maybe decay, like the whitening of the hair. So that's also I think it's also one of the symbols. And then in the main issues, we also discussed the impact on the impact of nature on Frankenstein, how it changes his mood, and it offered him spiritual renewal and rest. And then there was also the part where we just discussed the impacts of ourselves.
Okay, and on the related passage, we choose some paragraphs and phrases from when the Victor met the monster, and after he agreed to create a maid for the monster. And then first, before that, we thought that natures are all comforting, and it can give us tranquility and consolations. But after that, when Victor's mind was so overwhelmed by the thought, nature's kind of failed to restore peace in his mind. And then later on, we see that when Victor destroyed the made creature that was half-made and dumped it into the ocean, Victor look out to the oceans, and then he had a very sound sleep that night, because nature's and his emotions kind of work together to give him a sense of peace and tranquility. And After Victor go back to the Geneva and saw Elizabeth, Elizabeth also uses nature's and trying to comfort Victor. So we think that nature's and his emotions worked in a very unison way. And then as for the relevance to us part, we definitely agree that the natures serve as something that will comfort us and tranquilize and give us relief. And some of us share our experience through, like, when we are under stress, we will go out to the mountains or to see some landscape, and that give us some peace in mind.
Also, for the metaphor part, to sum up, it's our conclusion was that the monster is related to nature throughout, and that he is actually tied to nature. And as human beings are part of nature, the monster is also because he was Daphne mentioned that the previous group mentioned that he was almost born from nature because he was made from from corpses. So those body parts were once alive. So in a way, it's also nature. And so in conclusion, nature can make Frankenstein joyful and lift up his spirits. But at the same time, it also reminds him of his guilt, his shame, and what he regrets.
Wait. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to push them more towards recognizing that Victor challenges the sublime, and the sublime is able to inspire awe within him, because basically his creation of the monster is going against nature. Right. And so
At the end, he challenges nature, or where did he challenge nature?
yeah.
In an act of creation.
Yeah, in the act of creation. And also, isn't it the romantic ideal is that in the sublime you're supposed to transcend nature to elevate your senses to like a higher level? David mentioned that to be closer to God.
David? Yeah. Go ahead. What is the sublime?
Well, I got the idea of sublime from Wordsworth's poems. Yeah, well, I think sublime not only means to bring joy, but it also brings awe. So I think that is what Victor encounters when he goes to nature. And well, I said, yeah, and I think when Victor he tries to seek sublime, he is also trying to be nearer to God, because he creates the monster, and that is what gods do. So I think this is the way, but at the same time he feels awe and he feels guilt. So, well, it's very interesting that whenever Victor he is like enjoying the tranquility of nature, all of a sudden he sees the monster.
Yeah.
So I think that's the point.
Okay. Anything else from Daphne?
As our conclusion earlier for the discussion, we also mentioned that a person's creation is who they are, like on the inner side. So we thought that by creating Frankenstein, by creating the monster, Victor was able to almost get rid of his inner devious sides. So it's also, I think it's also a form of a reflection and maybe his inspection of what he disapproves himself of, and also it's the whole story was also maybe a way of how he deals with his own problems and how he rids those like the devils in his mind.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that it's ironic because the sublime inspires, well, it forces Victor to recognize that he tried to play God and he feels guilt at times, right? And yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think well, I don't have the whole picture because I was not in the group discussion, but I think so far to respond to the group, I think that the final addition is a little bit contradictory to your main point that nature is comforting, or the other group's point that nature is a source of learning. And then you said that in one's creation, one reveals the hidden part of one's nature. I think this is more of a psychoanalytic point of view. This is a little bit like my saying that with the death of Elizabeth, we get to see the combination of the homely and the uncanny, or the most terrifying and the sweetest female angel, and the two things get combined. There is a way of analyzing or psychoanalyzing the creation to say that indeed Victor kind of express or externalizes his hidden desire, either to replace the role of the mother, to take the place of the mother, or to regain his mother. You know, I think it is possible that the monster really embodies the most sinister part of his psyche. It is possible, but I guess if you do the psychoanalytic reading, then the role of nature will be downplayed. No, it's more one's struggle with one's inner psyche. Yeah, okay. And about sublime, yeah, indeed, I think the two TAs are right to say that basically for the romantics, there are two kinds of nature. One is the nature which is beautiful, comforting, pacifying, tranquilizing, and then there is another kind of nature which is sublime. And here, the impact of nature on Victor is different from the previous passage when he goes out to nature with Clerval after the creation. There, nature is comforting, but here, nature is a little bit belittling, in the sense that it distracts Victor from what preoccupies him, because nature is too engrossing, too huge, and then Victor feels small. Here he says, divert my mind from the thoughts over which it had brooded. Okay, and also it elevated me from all littleness of feelings. You know, so he feels little in this sublime nature. I don't think. I think the group's description of the colors is interesting, but I would tend to think that Mont Blanc being the peaks of the whole mountains there, and then Montverde is the middle part. Then Mont Blanc is more higher. It's higher and more isolated from human world, so it's closer to God, or it's closer to either transcendence or human extremities, human boundaries. What is inhuman, non-human, etc. Okay, so. Having Victor meet the monster in Montverde is symbolic in the sense that they are both exiled. They are both on human boundaries at that point. Yeah, okay. Here, yeah, I included the image of Montverde. Let me skip it. And I think the passages in nature suggest different things. One is indeed Victor's resilience, and this is something we can learn from. I guess I hope and believe that each of you will have your own ways of restoring your energy, refreshing yourself, and getting over your sadness and traumas and everything. I personally, I'm not really as close to nature as the romantics are, but I think that every time in summer or in winter vacations, I'll make sure that I'll make a trip, and then I'll feel restored, really. And my very peculiar experience of nature nowadays is that sometimes when I'm in nature, like in the mountains or at the village, etc., I'll do yoga there. Okay, and then I'll find myself looking at nature from different perspectives, because with different postures, you get to look at nature upside down, sideways, etc., etc. Okay, and then you get to gaze at nature because you have to stay in one posture for a while, etc. Okay, so this is just for you to, I think it is important that you know how to extend the implications of the passages to yourself. You know, although we are not testing you on it in the midterm exam, final exam, but I think this is really the most important part of our learning of literature. For instance, like this part, this is also about nature. Let me, about letter writing. I think that you can compare the letter writing between Wharton and Margaret to your messaging. Just now, one group member said that I'll text message to my boyfriend and ask him to tell the truth, etc. Okay, so I guess letter writing is no longer a dominant mode of communication. Now you leave messages on, even email is not the dominant mode for you anymore. You know, I sometimes wrote emails to my friends or students, and they never respond because they don't take emails anymore. They just read messages from Facebook. Okay. Anyway, so I guess you can compare the two modes of communication. And maybe we can say that now we can be closer because communication is faster, more efficient. But then there can also be a kind of excessive communication. You know, you get too many messages from too many people, and etc., etc. Okay. So that you don't cherish the singular messages that you get from your friends as much as you would have, you know, when you get a letter, hard copy letters mailed to you, like from a distance after a long period of time. I still remember. Okay, just 1 minute. I still remember when I was in the States studying, and that at that point there was no computer, no email. No email. So I wrote letters home, and then they will get it like 7 days afterwards, and sometimes 10 days. So whatever I wrote, you know, when they received my message, it was already dated. You know, like if I wrote that I was unhappy, by the time they received it, you know, my mood was gone. You know, I changed to another mood, etc. So there's always this mismatch. But then it's very interesting because maybe they will comfort you at the time when you no longer feel sad. But then you still appreciate the concern, etc. Yeah. Okay. So for every passage or for every text, I hope that you know how to relate to yourself, to your own world. Okay. And here again, talking about resilience is one thing, admirable. Okay. But then on the other hand, he like what the group 1 pointed out, he's very self-centered. He gives him a lot of self-excuse. And also he delays. He put off doing things very often. For instance, at the point when after he knows about William's death, and at the point he's going back to his to Geneva, his home country, his hometown, he put it off. He wanders around, and because he dreads facing the terrible consequences, and then he's like, this is one thing you know, he was unable to speak up for Justine, and then also Yes, this is an example of his resilience, and that is after the death of Justine, he is really at the lowest point, and he is very despondent. But then he knows that bodily exercise can help him. This is another thing, suggestion for you. I also agree with that. Bodily exercise really can help you restore yourself, etc. Okay, and then also at the time when he promised the monster to create the female monster, and this is the time when he procrastinates a lot for 3 years actually in his creation of the monster, the female monster. Okay.